We're still in the Ways and Means room, lost introductory language at this point in the week. It's Friday, February 13th, still 10:30, and we are working on our miscellaneous tax bill. And Kirby, do you want to join us? Or will you please join us? Thank you. My hope is that we can all get our heads around everything that's in here. I've invited witnesses for next week to come testify on various sections of it that are relevant to other stakeholders. So if you could be listening with an eye towards what you want to hear more about, or any technical corrections to it, that would be. Thank you.
Good morning, Kirby Keating, Legislative Council, here with a new draft of miscellaneous tax bill with some things added to it. Would the chair like me to, I did prepare for you a section by section summary. Would the chair like me to use that at all, or just walk through the bill language and just know that the summary is there if you want it?
Probably is this the summary you're talking about, or is it a new one?
I did not make that. Mine looks like this. It's on the committee page for today.
Let me bring it up. Is it, do I need to refresh my?
Yeah, I was able to pull it. So
That looks like maybe the department made that one.
Does anyone have a preference? Yes.
I don't have a distinct preference, but I'm gonna read through the section by section, because that's the way I keep track of it. So whatever it's,
I can go through the bill language and people
Alright,
can
that's
just
the language.
check on the, okay. I'll keep for things that we've already gone over, I'll keep it quick. We do have 50 sections
It's been
now.
a while since we were last here, so we might need slightly.
Okay. Okay. I'll move moderately fast.
Remembers any of it, but I feel like it's been 3 years since we last discussed it.
Okay, I'll move moderately fast. We have 50 sections. Fortunately for our endurance, half of those are the grand list change from April 1 to January 1. We essentially have 25 sections of substance to look at. And let's begin. Section 1 on page 1, line 12 is a repeal of the denial of tax credits for S corporations. I think Rebecca Semmeroff gave us the history on going back to the 90s, how this was this thing not allowing S corporations to do this that's in the law seemed to have come as revenge out of the department losing a case at some point. She reminded us that's not their core mission these days, revenge. Section 2 is related to the transfer tax. This grants the department authority to investigate whether a bona fide landlord-tenant relationship exists for purposes of applying the higher property transfer tax rate for second homes and short-term rentals. We had talked about how bit of a loophole exists where you could avoid paying that rate under current law by having by renting out the property that you're purchasing for 30 days in the upcoming year. And that's really all you have to do. Because it's tied to having a requirement to file a landlord certificate, but that's only for 30 days or more. So the department's approach is to have the ability, when performing compliance work, to look into those transfers to determine if there's an actual landlord-tenant relationship, or if this is just a landlord certificate, set up to avoid the tax. And yeah, I'd commented that I don't know if it came through, but I thought it was commendable that the department was willing to say, hey, we will put in the work to do a good job with this. So I think I made a joke about it last time, but I do want to make it clear that I thought that was commendable. Section 3 and 4 relates to PVR conducting valuations for unenrolled parcels in current use. In certain cases, this is when a portion of a parcel is unenrolled or developed. There has to be evaluation done on the value of that portion. In cases where municipalities fall behind, it gives the department the ability to come in after 30 days and do the valuation.
Yeah.
Again, Kirby, I'm sorry, I may not be asking you to repeat what we've already been told, but.
That's why we're here. Don't apologize for it.
Okay, so the land exchange tax, that's current use. So somebody who claims to be enrolled but isn't enrolled, is that what we're talking about? A misunderstanding? or-
No, it's when, the evaluation has to be done if you, want to enroll or unenroll, withdraw, like not necessarily pay land use change tax at this time. But you withdraw a portion of your, property because maybe you've got some future plans or you just don't want to use it for farming or forestry anymore.
Mhm.
If you're keeping a portion of the parcel enrolled, then the land use change tax gets applied based on portions. So when that happens, and so evaluation has to be done. It could also happen if there was development, say 2 acres out of 100 has something built on it that would be considered development under current use, and in that case, land use change tax would become immediately due for that developed portion. And so in either of those cases, you have to have evaluation done, and that's done by the municipality, by the listers and assessors. There are situations in the real world where the lister or assessor can't get out and do that valuation soon. Because this is something that kind of comes up. It's not part of their ordinary work. And it's also just a kind of evaluation from scratch because a portion of a parcel isn't normally what they do. So it's not as easy as maybe some other things they could be asked to value. So for all those reasons, sometimes, and of course, we know that some municipalities have trouble even getting staff to do this stuff. So there's just cases that come up where it doesn't get done. And then so the landowner who's saying, I'm trying to unenroll this, like, government, please, like, do something so that I can proceed with my plans. So the resolution for that the department's proposing here is to give PBR the ability to come in and help out in that situation and do evaluation.
On the whole parcel, not just.
Just on the portion, just for the purposes of current use for land use change tax is what they're doing this for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that was a proposal from PVR, and Jill is available if you want to learn more.
Mhm. And I'll try to remember that as I go through where things are coming from. Give you a refresher on that too. So far, everything that we've gone through has been a department proposal. And that's also the case for the next thing, which is section 5, which if you recall, it's the addition of grazing rights to this provision where usually this comes into play when a landowner is trying to enroll a parcel that's less than 25 acres into current use. There's these special ways to qualify. This is specifically for agriculture. There's certain ways to qualify for acreage that small. One of them is that if the land has produced an annual gross income from the sale of farm crops, and then in 1 of 2 or 3 of 5 calendar years preceding of at least, and then there's 3 different ways to go from there.
The Ag Committee is looking at this language, and the Natural Resources Committee will probably look at this language, and they are thinking through some clarifications that might be helpful, and they'll bring them back to us, I think, next week. Because one of them being like what a head, like whether we should get more specific about a head, for instance. Yeah.
Thank you for that, because I looked into it a little bit myself and probably tell me, but this came from PVR, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it didn't come from thankfully, going to the ag department. I heard it was based on one individual's experience, which I don't think we should write legislation around one person's issue with a situation like this. What else did I find out? Anyway, there's some concerning aspects to this particular provision for me.
When we talked about it last time, I think we sort of hypothesized a number of loopholes, even just around this table with, yeah, very little.
I think
So let's, we'll hear back from ag and then see where we go from there.
I just had a question for you. You had just one person's issue. What was your first issue with it? Your first concern? I didn't hear the first concern.
just that at the time ag hadn't taken it up, actually, and I also heard too that it isn't gonna go through the current use advisory board for consideration, so that's another concern for me as well.
We can have Jill back in as, once we hear back from ag, we'll have Jill back in to answer those kinds of questions.
Thank you.
So just to summarize this change, for certain agricultural parcels, this would be expanding the ways to enroll that parcel, expanding it by allowing grazing rights to, or income from grazing rights as a new way of qualifying for the program. Okay. The next change is also from the department. Section 6. This changes the calculation for payment to municipalities for municipal property taxes lost due to flood or flood-prone properties taken off the grand list. The change is to change the calculation from using the municipal tax rate for the current year to the immediately preceding year. And if I remember correctly, the departments had pointed out that this is how the calculation is made for the pilot payments, and they're aligning those two with this proposal. So,
I'm having a slow day today here, but changes the.
Me too.
Sometimes, right.
me also, so maybe I'm just not explaining it.
Same room at least. So we have a flood. Somebody goes to the Board of Abatement asking to not have to pay their taxes because their property was made unlivable. They couldn't live. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me what's happening.
My understanding of this program, which I didn't write the underlying law here. My understanding of the program is it's a case where a municipality purchases the underlying, the property, because maybe the property's been severely damaged and to flooding, or maybe it just continues to be flooded. And the policy decision's made that it's better if this is not developed. So that's what this municipal grant stabilization program, or what the program overall is doing. The part we're specifically talking about is, are there some provisions where the municipality gets reimbursed for the lost municipal taxes for that parcel for a period of time? That's 10 years, I believe.
Is this a new thing?
It's relatively new.
Yeah.
Representative Brennigan, I'm gonna actually ask Representative Wozniak to answer some of your questions, because it was a lot for Barry, so.
Do you want me to do that now? Yeah, so basically, when a property goes through the FEMA buyout process, the structure that was on there gets destroyed and the municipality loses the grand list revenue that came from the original value. So working with the administration last year, we designed this program so that the municipality gets reimbursed for that lost property tax revenue.
For 10 years, you said?
Yeah, for the first 5 years is 100% of the value. The preceding 5 years is 50% of the value for 10 years of total support. And this is just a technical change for determining which tax rate is used to calculate that municipal reimbursement.
And so I do think the Department of Taxes considers this change really like a technical correction.
Yeah. Because the payment's supposed to go out on January 1 of each year, but the tax rate is set by that point under the current laws. So,
So you repeat that last sentence that you just said, because that was kind of key.
the payments go out the door on January 1, whereas tax rates are not typically set until school budgets and the yield bill and all of that stuff is passed. So it's just cleaning up the calendar, basically.
Thank you.
Back to you, Kirby.
Okay, so our next change is in section 7. This adds provisions addressing cases where a communication service provider fails to submit an inventory to PBR for property valuation. I don't think that this penalty language is based out of anything in the real world. I don't think PBR is just starting to do this process, take over this process of valuing communications properties as there's a transition from the telephone personal property tax right to having PBR do the values. So I believe that they're just noticing that the new law does not account for cases where a taxpayer is not cooperating. So they suggested this language in case that happens. So what it does is if the service provider fails to submit the inventory, that is an inventory of their property for PBR to base its value on. If they fail to submit that on time, the commissioner may fine the provider not more than $100 for each violation, unless the provider's failure is due to factors beyond the provider's control. That $100 is based off of an older current law. That's why it seems like maybe a relatively low penalty. And then in cases where the service provider willfully admits to swear to and submit an inventory or to answer any interrogatory therein, or makes a false answer, the consequences are the division shall ascertain, they'll make their own estimate of fair market value, and the taxpayer would not have the ability to appeal that estimate.
Representative Mosley?
Yeah, thank you. With regards to whether $100 is high or low, I'm unsure. And the text of the bill gives us the way to wiggle towards an answer. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, I don't know if it's good or not.
And I only brought that up because it came up in testimony, by the way. I wasn't trying to make any policy.
I think last time we discussed it, I flagged that I didn't think $100 would change anyone's, the type of provider that is being fined here. I can't imagine $100 is gonna make a big difference. It makes a difference for me, but I don't know if it makes a difference for a ton.
I don't have some.
But we can ask PBR about if they think it'll make a difference, if anyone needs to. Yeah.
That communication provider may have multiple
Mhm.
properties on a single report, so that $100 would add up fast.
Good point.
Thanks. How are you defining each violation?
So the violation in this case would be a failure to submit the inventory on or before April 15 in the form prescribed.
How does that look? I'm wondering if it's different kinds of, here's this kind of properties, this kind of properties, this kind of property, so you would add up, or what?
I think that is a good question for the department, because I think there are some different ways to interpret this. It could be that each day that it's not submitted, that could be considered a new violation. And it could also mean this could be interpreted to mean $100 per every time that the entire inventory isn't submitted, or is it $100 for each thing missing from the inventory? So I think that's a good question. I think that since they're basing this off of something pre-existing, I think they will have some more context for how that other thing is done. But I'm not sure.
And if they give us that context, then we would think about whether we should have more clear wording in here or what?
Yeah,
Let's think about it after we hear the testimony.
if someone can remember to ask property valuation and review about that. That would be great. We'll have them back in.
Section 8, equalization study. This is more of a clarifying provision. This is new, by the way. We have not looked at this before. It's some clarifying language that when it comes to equalization study, that the new CHIP program from last year, that for the house sites under CHIP, that they will be treated like a TIF district when it comes to the equalization study. No further questions, we will move on.
So that's a new section 8 completely?
That's a new section 8 for this bill, yeah. It's, and you know, it's amending existing law, you know, the equalization study statute.
Saw the other ones down.
And it's,
100% reappraisal
it's-
is 9 now.
yes.
It's also from the department.
And it's just addressing an open question under current law now with what do they do? When they go to do the equalization study and now like once there starts to be CHIP projects. Like, I think the department thinks it's like, you probably want us to treat this like TIF, right? But then it's not actually in the statute. So that's what's.
That's what 24 VSA chapter 52 is. That's CHIP.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I don't know if you need to know this, but I had John Gray look at the language and we tweaked it a little bit from what the department suggested. This was, so this, what you're looking at is John's suggested language.
Excuse me, but
Mhm.
you said chapter.
It's chapter 53.
Yeah, you said 52. Were you correcting this?
No, I was, it wasn't on the screen and I was trying to remember the number.
Oh, wow.
So it's 52.
I understood. I
Okay.
understood.
Yeah, very close. I thought there was a problem. Okay.
Sorry.
Yep. Okay, so section 9 is something we've looked at before and is another suggestion from the department. This, if you recall, was the issue of what CLA to use.
I just want to own, this was my suggestion to the department and then they offered back as a suggestion. And so I want to
Okay,
I'm not sure how much they would have come forward with it on their own, so I don't want to entirely put that on them.
But they're 100% fine with it.
Yes, totally. They really did submit the language. I just sort of, you know,
Department.
yes, absolutely.
When we talked about, it was meant to be for like 1 year, right? Just
Very much
Is there any language, and it might be addressed elsewhere in the legislative language that's not included on the specific document?
Mhm.
Do we need to specify that it's just for the immediate following year?
no, because the subsection that we're amending here is specific,
okay.
that it's only for education tax purposes. Yeah,
And only for that single year.
yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the change here is that instead of using the calculation in existing law to make up a CLA that could be slightly different than 100, that PVR will just simply use a 100 CLA if the municipality had just finished a mastery appraisal. For education tax purposes specifically, is what this is about.
It's also specifically about the certification of it. Right, from PVR. What that means, certifying the values.
That means that not only has the municipality just finished a mastery appraisal, but PVR has done something to make sure that that's actually true. Yeah.
I think we talked about this, but the effective date of that is,
I think this is gonna be on passage. We heard back that from Rebecca Samaroff that rather than try to remember it, I'm gonna quickly pull that up to let you know that info. basically, she gave her response that yes, this will happen. I have everything covering my search bar. Okay. Okay, sorry. Rebecca wrote, effective date is on passage as written. That is true. The department confirmed our understanding that the 100% reappraisal CLA would apply to upcoming 2026 to 2027 FY 27 property tax year unless we change it here to delay the effective date past July 1 of this year. I did respond to Rebecca saying, my understanding is that you're fine with us leaving it the way it is. She said, yes.
Thanks.
The next two sections, 10 and 11, extend the health IT fund sunset 5 years to 2031. I think the last time we looked at this, it was written as 2 years, but it's been changed to 5 years to push that out more.
I haven't officially heard from anyone in the administration that they object to this yet. So if I do, I'll let you know.
So this is from,
The administration, I think, said it's in the budget. We talked about it. Yes. Was that yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Correct.
They had 1 year in the budget and a 1 year sunset is just a lot of paperwork.
So yeah, so that wasn't specifically a department ask. It's the first thing we've run across, I think. It was not, well, and then the 100% CLA thing was a fun thing too. But so yeah, so the health IT fund sunset was not a department ask. This next thing we're looking at was also not department ask. Are we okay to move on? Yeah. If you remember that there was the addition that we did look at last time to the way that 529 plan distributions can be used. So a subsection is being added to allow a special rollover to a Roth IRA. We had talked about how this is something that's allowable under the federal version of 529 plans. And Vermont's language decouples us from the federal quite a bit. So for any changes that are made at the federal level, they don't flow through to the Vermont credit. So in this case, it's language adding that back. It does add one additional requirement though, is that the plan would have to be maintained for not less than 20 years before that rollover could take place. Under federal law, the requirement's 15 years. So this is just making it so that the account has to be maintained for a little bit longer for Vermont to allow it.
And to explain where this one came from, it was an email from another member's constituent that got forwarded to me. I'm sorry, I don't even remember who the member was, let alone the constituent. And thought it was an interesting idea with the idea, this constituent had a child who had their entire, they had a savings account for the child. The youth then had their entire educational experience paid for with various scholarships. And then had this account that they weren't sure what to do with. And that is the extent of the research I have done on this. I put it in here so that the committee could have a discussion about it. It is interesting to me. I'm not going to call it a proposal from me, and we're going to have VSAC come in and talk to us about it next week. Because the implications of it I have absolutely no idea. Yes.
20 versus 15 come from that email?
I really don't even remember that. I'm sorry, Representative Bodie.
Is that,
These were thoughts way back in December, and they are now gone.
okay, thanks.
And the one quick conversation I've had with VSAC, they had a question about Is it from the point that you create the account? Is it from when the account, like, is that no one touches the account for 20 years and that can roll over? What's the timeline of that? So, but I'm sure VSAC will have a lot more content to add to this topic.
So moving on, sections 13 through 16 are inflation index updates. If you remember, we had talked about how the New England Economic Project Cumulative Price Index is something that does not exist. The NEAP inflator does not exist, but it is written into current law in a few places. So updating that to NIPA is what the language does. That's all it does. Don't think that this creates any substantive change actually from what's already happening. But it does make the statute align with current practice.
I'm so sorry. Yes,
Do you know when the inflator report has come?
soon. I think every committee, there are many committees that are drawing the attention of the staff that are working on this.
So section 17 is changed to the homestead declaration section and property tax credit section. This came from the taxpayer advocate report. It was suggested that you allow the PTC to be calculated using 100% of the property taxability of a party to a separation or divorce who is living in a homestead, even if the other party to that divorce or separation is still an owner. So under current law, if you were to follow the letter of the law, if you have a divorce separation situation, one person's living there, another person's living elsewhere, but they're still a co-owner, basically the amount of property tax credit would be reduced based on that split in ownership. So this is a correction to not have the tax treatment done like that.
And the taxpayer advocate's coming next week, if anyone has questions about it.
Okay, good. What kind of behaviors this may cause?
I think it's something that they are correcting with commissioner authority on a case-by-case basis right now. But he can tell us more about it.
Yeah.
Next section relates to estate tax. This is the change that did come from the Department of Taxes, requesting that the filing thresholds for the size of an estate match the tax liability thresholds. Currently, for estates that are between 2.75 million and 5 million have a filing requirement, but they don't actually have any tax liability for Vermont. So the department has said that they receive a number of these, what they call zero returns, as in someone goes through the whole process of filing a return, the department goes through the process of processing that return, and then at the end of the day, like no taxes due or paid. So they'd like to get rid of it and change the threshold to 5 million, which is the threshold at which tax liability would start. Section 19 extends the down payment assistance program to the year 2031, and it also increases the maximum total award amount for first year credit allocations from 250,000 to 350,000. And I believe you've heard testimony on this. Sections 20 and 21 is the language from H770 that we looked at a couple of days ago. This is about the federal tax credit program for contributions to scholarship granting organizations. This language would preclude Vermont from participating and also assigns the General Assembly as the entity making that choice for Vermont.
It'd be helpful for me to hear from members about who else they would like to hear from on that one.
Section 22 amends the definition of parcel for purposes of the grand list so that it means a separate and sellable lot or piece of real estate, but only for purposes of mapping and the per parcel payments. There was some language that got at this in Act 73, but that would have had impacts on property valuation that were unintended. So the goal or the plan is to remove what this was attempting to do in Act 73, replace it with this language, which gets at what works best for the Department of Taxes and BCGI. But the reasoning behind this proposal is that BCGI would like things to be done a little differently, so they would have access for mapping purposes to contiguous parcels under the same ownership.
And this was from the department.
Yes.
The correction was from the department.
And sections 23 through 25 are a new issue that is new to miscellaneous tax bill. What we're looking at is a repeal of the Department of Fish and Wildlife's fee setting authority for public use of department lands and properties. So section 23 is the repeal of the fee setting authority. Section 24 is a repeal of a regulatory or a rule on fees from Fish and Wildlife. This was drafted, by the way, by my colleague, Mike O'Grady, who works in this area, not by me. And I would, if you have deep questions on this, I would certainly defer to Mike on that and would try to show some restraint and try to answer that. And then in section 25 here, it's a concession law for Fish and Wildlife to report back and to recommend the fees that should be charged. So replacements for the fees that are being repealed.
So is this speaking back to the presentation we heard from them early in the session?
Indeed it is.
So the effective dates for this would be, the repeals effective July 1, 2027. So the fees as they are now would continue until then. And then in anticipation of that July 1, 2027 appeal, it's a repeal. It's written that, they would report back before then so that the General Assembly could put into place some statutory fees.
Representative Maslin, take.
Representative Odie, you may help me out with this, but Elkhart just took testimony from Fish and Game in regards to a lot of their fees for the camps, summer camps and other things, right? So this is outside of all that, like really as far as,
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about,
Okay.
but it could be the same. I'm not sure. Because part of there's fees for the Green Mountain Conservation Camp. That's part of what's being repealed. Is the agency's ability to decide what those fees are,
But not the fees themselves.
not the fees themselves. The fees as they are now would stay in place. July 1, 2027, is when the repeal would take place, and before that, the General Assembly would have heard a report from Fish and Wildlife about what they think the fees should be, and the General Assembly would have decided what the fees are and put those into statute before that time.
Representative Maslin.
Thank you. When we finished hearing from Prairie, had a conversation recently with the Commissioner of DEC having to do with fees. That I'd like to bring up when we're not interrupting your work here.
And this had to do with the fishing access fees, as I recall. And we do not care for the idea that the commissioner can set their own fees at this time. Is that
Right.
correct?
That would be implied by this change.
And who's this? Fish and Wildlife is not proposing that we change this, is that correct? It's
This
somebody.
is not a proposal from Fish and Wildlife.
Do we know who's?
Me.
Okay.
I would say I'm not doing this in isolation. I've had a number of conversations with folks in this room and throughout the building about this.
Very
With
good.
a lot of, folks feeling a lot of discomfort about the move by Fish and Wildlife to create a public access fee essentially without consulting us.
So as I mentioned before, sections 26 through 49 are the change that we talked about in other contexts. This does relate to classifications and RADs, changing the grand list assessment date from January 1 to, or from April 1 rather, in current law to January 1. One of the biggest advantages is that gives that time period between January and April to do appeals processes and to do other work that's needed. So it's in some parts of the property valuation process, it creates more space and less time crunch for the people who are doing work on various things. Some background on this is that this was proposed and considered last year. What ended up happening was in Act 73, you included a provision that the department spend last off session going through statute and deciding where it was appropriate to make these changes. One thing I encountered when I attempted to do this during the session last year was places where I was not sure whether making the change from April 1 to January 1 made sense and whether it would cause an administrative problem for the department. So that was part of why the department took on this task. They did a wonderful job, and I'm very thankful for Abby Shepherd, who did this work and provided this language. So this language came from the department, and it came from the department because the General Assembly had asked for it.
And it's not contingent on anything, right? We're just making this change.
It's not contingent. It takes effect, though. This change is written to take effect July 1, 2031. Which, means that the classifications and the RADs are going to be set up before then. So yeah, you might want to talk with the department about what is the most appropriate effective date to set. This date, I set it for this because that's what the RAD report had suggested. But yeah, it could be worth having further discussion with them to make sure that things line up.
I think we should have the discussion. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it might make more sense to move this section into the Brad language rather than hanging out here all by itself.
And I think we've heard from the field, or at least I haven't very certainly, but I just don't know why we need to wait till 2031 to do that.
Okay. Yes, Representative Bodie.
I agree with you to move it because can you imagine explaining this on the floor? I mean, it's just like, now tell me about tax classifications. Now I'm gonna tell you about the rents. I'm gonna tell you about when this section's good.
Representative Hagan.
Could we go back to the Fish and Wildlife fees again?
Yeah.
I just brought up and it jogged my memory. I can't, so much going on.
Yeah, no, my member also, it's
So, what we did in Elkhart was through rulemaking where for 13 years, the Fish and Game Department hasn't raised any of their fees for things like wedding venues, going from $3,000 to $5,000, conservation camps going from $250 to $300, facility day use, $300, $600 for private entities, and the list goes on. So I just want to make sure, with the wording in this, I don't see how we can be touching any of this, correct?
So what, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what happened in Elcar. The administration proposed that they could increase all those fees and Elcar approved that.
Yes.
And my intent with the language was not to mess with any fees that are happening right now. It was to remove their authority to set new fees in the future without coming to us. The way most every other department does. But we should, can you clarify that that's what that does, Kirby, and or tell us to talk to Michael more?
I think that the best person to talk to would be Michael Grady, not myself. I can pull up the fee that is,
We can just.
okay, and I can leave it at that. Okay, I can pull up that rule, but whatever. Okay,
Is that the only agency that has that authority?
Staff is looking into who else has the authority, but they're the ones that, in my experience, have the most of that authority. The other ones are sort of more marginal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, it's not a very well constructed sentence, sorry. Representative Maslin.
Yeah, so maybe it would be an appropriate time to take up what I heard just very recently about fees, which is at a presentation by DEC on their permit process. The commissioner allowed us how we got through the conversation. When they got through the process, which is largely complete but not done and adopted, they will need some more bodies. And commensurate with such, they'll need to raise fees in order to pay for the bodies, which I thought was a very helpful development. So the indication was don't bug us right now, but we acknowledge we'll need more fees to cover more bodies to do this job. So that is a good news.
Thanks. And it sounds like they're all already doing that for Elcar.
Teamwork.
And maybe we wouldn't, I don't know, maybe the opposite tact is the administration would be willing to raise fees if they don't have to come to the legislature, and we should just have it all go through Elcar, and then we would have enough revenue for the state. I'm really not sure. But sorry, that was a little Friday snark. Kirby, will you continue? I was about to call you Representative Cheaton.
yeah.
I know. I'm really happy.
Okay, so effective dates, section 50. It's currently drafted where many of these changes are effective on passage, because a lot of them are technical changes, clarifications, things that don't require any setup. So that's the way we've left it for now. There's exceptions being the change to S corporations' ability to claim tax credits is going to be retroactive to 2025. So that would be immediate. And then the current use changes are to take effect on October 1, 2026. At least the land use change tax changes. And I believe Jill testified that that date is set so that it's after the next round of applications.
Yeah, we asked her really explicitly about it.
Mhm. The current use qualifying income change is for September 2nd, or that one's probably the one that's related to applications. And the grand list definition of parcel, a continuous parcel change, has an effective date of April 1, 2027. That allows time for setup for that change. The Department of Fish and Wildlife fee setting authority change, as I think I mentioned when I was explaining it, would be July 1, 2027. And then the grand list A change that we talked about is currently set at July 1, 2031. And again, that effect date is based off of how it was written in the RAD report. I haven't had any follow-up with the department about how they feel about that. There's miscellaneous tax bill, exactly 50 sections, so you can't add or take out anything. 50, we're just gonna keep it,
But we could add something as long as we.
as long as you take something else out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
It's subsection.
Any questions that anything anyone wants to go back to?
Hearing more, Madam Chair, on all of these sections.
From stakeholders, I'll tell you the stakeholders I already have, and then you can tell me who I'm missing. How does that sound? Okay. A lot of paper on these steps, folks. Give me a second. We have VLCT, Laura Collins, the Sierra Club, sorry, we have VLCT, Vermont Housing Finance Agency, the Sierra Club on the fee thing. Various staff people, don't have adding Michael Grady, we have tax, including the taxpayer advocate.
VSAC is good.
We have VSAC,
Want somebody from.
and we probably want someone from Fish and Wildlife. And
Probably Jason Batchelder.
Maybe the ledge council from Elcar so that everybody can understand what goes on in Elcar based on your comment, because there's limits to what Elcar can do.
who is the Elcar attorney?
It used to be Damien, it keeps being switched. We had
Okay,
another.
okay, we'll find it. Okay, great, thanks. And then Michael O'Grady
Mark,
as well.
who's the Elcar attorney now? Damien switched to something.
Right, yeah, I can't think of his name.
It's okay, sort of, I can find it out. Thanks. Okay, so if there's someone else that you would like to have in, let me know. And there's no way we're gonna get Michael O'Grady in the next 5 minutes, right, Saoirse?
I just.
Michael O'Grady doesn't. Okay, okay, great, okay. Okay, I think with that, we're gonna stop until 1 o'clock. And then we'll pick up whatever we're picking up at 1.
The pharmacy.
The pharmacy bill, thank you. And we have a vote.
On Elcar, yeah. Oh,
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
helpful.
Just one more minute over here. Thanks. We have a vote warrant for 1 o'clock.
Great.
Which include, and we're gonna look at like a technical change to language we looked at before.